Baldur's Gate 3 is more than just an amazingly fun game to play. It's actually a treasure trove of lessons for game masters, despite the fact that there is no game master in the game. So today we are discussing 10 unexpected game master lessons you can learn from Baldur's Gate 3. Now, there will be some mild spoilers, but I don't think I'm going to give anything too crazy away. Number 1, branching story paths. Like any good RPG video game, Baldur's Gate 3 allows players multiple ways to solve problems and progress the story. This adds to the overall sense of freedom and player agency. For instance, in one quest, the player encounters a goblin camp led by a goblin priestess. The player has the option to either kill the priestess and the goblins or negotiate with them. Each choice leads to different consequences and story paths. Killing them makes the player a hero to the local druids and tieflings, while negotiating can lead to a potential uneasy alliance. Next, all main characters in Baldur's Gate 3 are infected with a mind flayer parasite. One of the main objectives is to remove it, of course, and there are several ways to approach this problem. One could seek the help of a powerful wizard, try to make a deal with a devil, or even embrace the parasite's power. Each of these choices leads to a different story path with unique consequences. Now, a great game master will incorporate this concept into their game, presenting multiple options to players and allowing player decisions to shape the story. This allows players to feel that their decisions genuinely matter, creating a more immersive and engaging game experience. This level of player agency is something I feel all games should strive to achieve. Number 2, dynamic world building. In a nutshell, Baldur's Gate 3's world changes according to a player's actions. The game is designed to reflect the outcomes of your actions. Imagine that. For example, if you decide to free a certain character from captivity, that character might later assist you in a combat scenario or provide you with useful information. In contrast, making a different choice, such as leaving the character in captivity, you evil monster you, could lead to a completely different scenario. Player actions can also lead to noticeable changes in the game environment. If you decide to disrupt a ritual at a shrine, for instance, it could lead to the shrine being destroyed, with visible changes in that location in the game world. Now, depending on the decisions you make, entire quest lines can become available or be closed off. This makes the world feel more real, as your actions have direct consequences on the opportunities available to you. The GM takeaway from this is to ensure your world is not static. Make sure the player's actions have noticeable and meaningful effects on the game world around them, whether it's in politics, economics, or even in smaller, more localized situations. This makes the game feel alive and responsive, creating an immersive experience that you should strive to replicate in your games. Number 3, balancing the 3 pillars: combat, exploration, and social interactions. Baldur's Gate 3 strikes a good balance between the 3 pillars of gameplay, each of which is critical to the game experience, and integrates them into the storyline and game mechanics. As a very specific example of this, Baldur's Gate 3 often provides multiple ways to handle encounters. For example, when encountering a group of hostile creatures, players may choose to engage them in combat directly, or they may use dialogue options to try to defuse the situation, persuade the creatures to leave, or even turn them into allies. This encourages players to consider alternatives to combat and gives them a chance to use other skills to influence outcomes. Game masters can learn from this balance that Baldur's Gate 3 strikes, making sure that their sessions aren't too heavily weighted toward one pillar or the other. Unless, of course, that's the specific preference of your gaming group. By the way, if you'd like to learn more about the 3 pillars or just how to prepare and run an amazing tabletop RPG in general, I highly recommend you check out The Secret Art of Game Mastery, live now on Kickstarter. My team and I took all of our combined Game Master experience and put it all into this one book. We teach you the ins and outs of creating a campaign, designing adventures, and running encounters that will keep your players engaged and loving your game. And the 2 companion books, The Secret Art of Preparation and the secret art of note-taking give you the templates and guidance I personally use when preparing and running my own games. Learn more and back the project now at the link below. Number 4, follow the rules. Baldur's Gate 3 uses 5th edition rules so that players who are familiar with them know what they are dealing with. And yet it also streamlines the rules, and the interface helps players with those rules. The result is ease of entrance for both those who are familiar with the rules and those who aren't. Okay, Game Master takeaways for this. First, when you mostly follow the core rules for a system, it makes it easier for players, especially new ones, to jump in and understand what's up. Too many homebrew rules tend to make it harder for players to get into the game. Just as Baldur's Gate 3 helps players with the rules, the Game Master should know the rules and help players who aren't familiar with them. The bottom line, I think, is this. My personal suggestion: mostly try to follow the rules, but don't let them get in the way of fun. Number 5, complex character backstories. The characters in Baldur's Gate 3 that adventure with your main character have complex backstories that make them feel real and motivate their actions. For instance, Shadowheart is a half-elf cleric who serves the goddess Shar, a deity associated with secrets and darkness. She was a member of a dark cult and was entrusted with a mysterious artifact before being captured, and the artifact was embedded into her by the Mind Flayers. The artifact and her connection to Shar are significant plot points. Her dark past and her service to a morally ambiguous deity add depth and complexity to her character. Other characters such as Astarion and Gale have pasts that add depth to the characters, giving them motivations and characteristics that inform their actions and decisions in the game. They also provide the basis for unique character arcs and developments throughout the game. So, as a game master, encourage your players to create detailed backstories for their characters and try to weave those backstories into the ongoing story and narrative. Use those backstories to introduce plot hooks, enemies, allies, and moral dilemmas. By the way, if you're finding this information useful, please give me a thumbs up and share this video with others. One of the best ways you can help other game masters is by sharing helpful content. Number 6, increase immersion with music. Baldur's Gate has amazing cinematic score and soundtracks. Not playing music during a tabletop role-playing game is a huge missed opportunity, in my opinion, that I tend to see lots of game masters do. Now, you can either just have stuff playing like whatever, or you can customize the music that you play according to the scenes and moods you are trying to create in the game. Number 7, use of abilities during social interactions. During dialogues, Baldur's Gate 3 often allows players to use their character's abilities to influence the conversation. For example, a player might use a persuasion skill to convince a character to divulge important information, a deception skill to lie convincingly, or an insight skill to discern if a character is lying. This intertwines the mechanics usually used in combat ability checks with social interaction scenarios, balancing the use of those skills in both contexts. Now, in tabletop role-playing games, a mistake I often see is either 1, a game master bases the outcome solely on what the player says and doesn't use their character skills at all, or at the other end of the spectrum, the game master bases the outcome purely on the dice rolls and not what the character says. In my games, what the player's character says can give them a bonus on die rolls or potentially a penalty, but they still use their character mechanics. We still make skill checks. Balance here is the key, I think. Number 8, non-player character depth. We talked about the characters the player may adventure with having depth and backstories, but the NPCs in Baldur's Gate 3 also have their own motivations, goals, and reactions to the player's choices. They aren't just background, they are an active part of the world. For instance, Halsin is a druid who plays a significant role in the first act of the game. His transformation into a bear during combat, his calm demeanor in conversation, and his role as a leader among the druids all reveal his depth as a character. The player's relationship with him changes depending on their actions, especially in the quest involving the goblin attack on the druid grove. And then you have Ethel, a hag the players encounter in a creepy bog. Imagine that. Her deceptive nature is revealed through various conversations where she tries to trick the players into making dangerous deals with her. The layered dialogue, the potential consequences of interacting with her, and the revelation of her true form provide depth to her character. So, game masters should aim to create similarly deep and complex NPCs. Your NPCs should not just be there to give out quests or provide services. They should have their own goals and motivations, reacting to the player's actions in ways that feel consistent with their characters. This will give your world a sense of realism and depth. Number 9, environmental interactions. Baldur's Gate 3 players can interact with their environment in meaningful ways, using it to their advantage in combat or exploration and giving them creative and strategic options. For instance, players can gain significant advantages by being on higher ground in combat. They can also interact with objects, which can be used for various purposes. For example, players can shoot explosive barrels to deal damage to nearby enemies, or move crates to block paths or create cover. Furthermore, a player might use a spell to create a surface of water, then another spell to electrify that water, damaging anyone standing in it. This is a great tool for game masters as well. Encourage your players to think creatively about their environment and consider how it could be used in their favor. Incorporating similar mechanics into a tabletop RPG can help make the game more immersive and provide players with additional strategic options. Number 10. Incorporate intrigue and mystery. Baldur's Gate 3 does an excellent job of keeping players engaged and guessing, with numerous plot twists and reveals. For example, early in the game, your character is implanted with a mind flayer parasite. The mystery surrounding this event drives much of the early plot. The constant looming threat of transformation into a mind flayer, combined with the various potential cures the player can pursue, creates a sustained sense of intrigue and mystery. Early in the game, the player learns about a cult dedicated to the Dead Three, Bane, Baal, and Merkel, gods of tyranny, murder, and death, respectively. I hope. The player must uncover who is behind this cult and their exact plans, which provides a lot of intrigue and suspense. As a game master, include intrigue, mystery, and plot twists in your game, as they keep players engaged, eager to discover the truth, and the payoff when a mystery is solved can be very satisfying. Try to weave an overarching mystery or several smaller ones into your campaign to keep your players hooked. But that's just what I think game masters can learn from Baldur's Gate 3. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments. And don't forget to back The Secret Art of Game Mastery at the link below. Don't miss out on decades of game master experience at your fingertips. And until next time, happy game mastering. My cat says hi too. Squeaky, what are you doing down there? I was in a video. You were in the video.